Good morning, everyone. We have another video here, and we're going to go through a little game I played. It was a blitz game, but it was kind of interesting, and I did make a couple mistakes, and but it's blitz, so it happens. You got to be kind of quick, kind of fast, but yeah, it's just one of those things. But I'm playing as black. My opponent was white, and he starts off with C4. So we got C4, G6, and I really thought about just playing the hippo on him. That's what I really thought about. D4, Bishop G7, Knight F3, E6. The normal hippo start out. We got G3, and I see he's going to shadow his bishop. We got Knight E7, which is normal. Bishop G2, D6, Knight C3, Knight D6, D7, E3, and then we have C5. I decided it was time to kind of break up his pawn structure. I figured I could go in from here, and if the knight moved, my queen could come in for a quick check, maybe pick something up. We have D5, but E takes D5. C takes D5, knight to E5. I was willing to go ahead and trade knights at this point. I didn't care if it opened his bishop up or even activated it, because I still had that pawn. His own pawn was blocking him. So, and he went with knight take E5, bishop take E5. We have F4 to challenge my bishop. We have bishop to C3, put in to take the knight and put in a check. So just to try to get like a little bit of a tempo on it. Plus I had ideas of maybe getting that pawn off of the D5 where he's sitting there, because it's kind of aggravating, but it's not really too bothersome. So we have B takes C3, and then I castle. We have C4, bishop to F5, just getting that bishop out, getting it active, and that's a pretty decent square, even though I know he's going to end up pushing the E pawn up on me probably to get that bishop out there. He castles, queen A5, which I was thinking about the check, but I decided to get the queen into the game. We have bishop B2, which he's taking that long diagonal away from me, and I have to be constantly reminded of that, because if not, like if queen comes in, anything like that, I'm pretty much screwed. We have B5. I figured, why not try to go ahead and trade off some pawns if we could. We have queen B3. B takes on C4. Like I said, I didn't want him to have a big structure going on the queen side, because that's where I'm going to have to try to make my way in at, it looks like. Queen takes C4. We have rook A to D8. Bishop C3. Queen A3. I'm still trying to get my queen in there, trying to see what I can do. When I went here, it was just pretty much, if he moves the bishop, then I can probably get a pawn check on the pawn on E3. But a lot of this was just to try to stop a lot of his momentum going toward that king side, because now he's got to worry about what my queen's doing. Then we have E4 to push the bishop away. So I just advance. There's no sense in following the troop falling back at this time. We might as well just go right in and see what we can do. So bishop G4. Then we have rook F to B1 to challenge my rook. I decide to go ahead and take. Rook takes rook, rook takes rook. And then I went knight to C8. And the reason I went knight to C8 is if he can bring that rook down to B8, okay? And if he did, that was fine. But it would be a big mistake on his part, because if he did go B8, and I was trying to draw him in on it, if he did go B8, then then for instance, if he did go rook to B8, I go knight here, and I know that Fritz is saying it's a good move. But you know, right here, I'm challenging the queen. His rook is here. The only option he's got is either he takes my rook, check. I take back, which is what I'm wanting is trade that rook off, or rook takes knight. But more than likely he's going to go rook take rook. It'd be rook take rook, king take rook, and queen would fall back, and right there would be a good square for his queen, which I'm wanting to trade anyway. But I really highly doubt that he would give me that trade. But anyway, that's just one variation. Let's see. So he goes bishop. He goes bishop to b2. Okay. I go queen to e3, check, just to get my queen in there. Because now I still got my bishop sitting there, and I figured, hey, I might be able to trade off or something. We have king to h1, and what I really I really should have traded this bishop off at this point. I should have just put the bishop on. I should have just took my bishop and just right here. That's what I should have done. And yeah, I mean, there's not a lot he could have done about that. He could have tried to do a couple things, but more than likely he would have took. But I'm just saying that's what I probably should have done, but I didn't. I went knight to b6 to challenge. He goes queen c3, and I think that was just a mistake on my part. It wasn't really a blunder, but it was a mistake. So I decided to trade queens, and he takes with the bishop. We have rook over, and I know you're thinking, why did I move my rook there? Because it puts my rook in a pin, and I was fine with that because I had no intention of moving the knight. I was setting that there to keep his rook in place if I could. And yeah, he could have went bishop down to challenge the knight, and I would have had no problem with that because if say he went down, okay, cool, you go ahead and leave it there because I'm not moving it. Now I would have just advanced my king because if he took, then I would have took, and if I would have took, I'd probably more than likely have took with my rook just to trade it out, and then it would have been light square bishop versus light square bishop. Because that dark square bishop, it's, if you notice, I'm half and half right now on the squares. So I'm trying to see which bishop I can get out before I really start moving, But anyway, he decides to run my bishop off by pushing. He's kicking it. So he's pushing it to h3. And I just bring my bishop on in. There wasn't no point in, retreating it back at this time. Rook comes up, and of course I bring my bishop here trying to give like a small threat. Pawn comes up, I bring my rook up because I realize he's not going to challenge, he's just going to push. So I get my bishop over to a6, and he goes bishop f6. And what he's planning on doing is he's planning on coming in the back door. He's planning on bringing that bishop and either putting it on e7 after we have some kind of rook exchange, or he was going to, if I didn't do the rook exchange, he was going to put that bishop on more than likely it was going to be on d8, challenge that knight. But I decided to go ahead and just move my knight, challenge his rook, and offer the trade. So rook takes b7, bishop takes b7, bishop e7 after, going after the pawns now. He's trying to gobble up material. So I just go ahead and push c4. I figured, what was the point? And he took. He goes down to after it, boom. And now we got this position, So, like I said, I pushed. He went bishop b4, c2, and bishop to d2 to stop the promotion of the queen. So I go bishop a6, king g1. He's coming in to go after the pawn now. But that was the only way I could really figure out a way to get in to get his material, to try to make up some material. So knight c3, which is going after the pawn, of course, and he goes king f2. You really can't do a whole lot if he goes toward the pawns. So I end up going bishop d3. So now I have a knight and a bishop attacking that pawn, and I'm pretty much trying to keep him from coming in. So we'll see what happens. Which that is not the greatest move in the world because of such things as king e3. You know, if he'd went king e3, then I would have had to bring my bishop out. I wouldn't be able to leave it sitting there, which I knew that when I went in. But people make mistakes, you know. And sometimes I play trying to get them to make a mistake, and in this case, he did. He went to king to e1 because he's worried about the pawn. He's not worried about the other stuff. So, and here, you know, I'm like, his bishop's not the greatest bishop, but I'm getting ready to activate his bishop, and I really didn't want his bishop coming out. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to take with the bishop. So bishop take e4, bishop take e4, knight take e4, and then bishop c1, which is blocking the advancement of the pawn, of the passed pawn. Okay, I decided to bring my king out and start getting my king into play. King f8, king e2, king e7, king d3, which is after the pawn and the knight. I go knight to f2 check, which gives him an option, and I also, trade a pawn for a pawn. King takes c2, knight take h3. Then he pushes g5, king to d6, which now I'm going to pick up another pawn. So he goes bishop d3, king take d5, and then we got bishop take a7, which he picks up the pawn. Now I've got a pawn on the queen side I've got to watch, but I get to pick up another pawn since I gave up another one, which is knight take a4. Okay, bishop to b8, which is what he's doing is he's putting it there not just to challenge the knight, but if that pawn starts advancing and it makes it all the way, say that pawn makes it on here, then he's got a pretty good setup, and I have to leave something there to protect it at all times. So anyway, here we go. We got knight e6, which is challenging that pawn again. He decides to bring the king up, which I end up getting a pawn. Now it's 3 pawns and a knight versus a pawn and a bishop, which I would have tried to protect a couple of those pawns, but he didn't. Okay, we got a4, king c6. Here is king. He's bringing it into b4. Knight e6, a5, knight c7, which I'm offering a trade on that bishop, because if he takes and I take and he tries to bring that king in, and if you know anything about the end games, I've got these pawns, but here's the thing about the end games that a lot of people don't know, unless you really study end games, and if you're new, you're not going to really know. But this king, the white king, if you're trying to promote this pawn to a queen, and especially on A and H, it's hard to do if it's king versus king, king pawn. But you got to get your king in front of this pawn before it hits 5th rank. If your king is in front of this pawn before it hits 5th rank, then you're going to promote, more than likely. You got a better odds of promoting. But we go bishop a7 is where he went. We got knight a6 check, and that forces him back because he couldn't come in any closer because he didn't have the squares. So h5, I decided to push h5 and maybe put the threat of going after a queen with one of my pawns to get that pawn out of the way, because I can't sit and protect that forever. We got bishop d6, and it also gets my stuff all on light squares where the bishop can't really do nothing. H4. Now he decides to move that king. So I don't know if his intention was leaving the bishop there, but to protect that pawn, but it just wasn't. I wasn't down for it. So H3, get on the light square. His king couldn't make it in time. He has to move the bishop. So now king b5, king e3. I take. He moves king up. Now I'm kind of worried about him actually going after my other 2 pawns. So king b5, and then he changes route to king g3, which when I seen this, I was like, Woo! I'm so glad he done that. And like I said, people make mistakes. We got king c7, king takes h3, king d5. I got to work that king in there. And here we got king g4, king e6, king g5, and knight b4. And now I got to try to work my pawns all the way up the board and try to promote. We got bishop h2, we got knight c6, bishop f4, knight e7, bishop b2, f5, bishop c3, king f7, bishop f6, knight d5. And I know this is kind of boring, but it's all about working your way up. And as you can see, I'm not going to read off every move, but as you can see, you got to get stuff moving up board. That's protecting the pawn, you know, so I can push that pawn. King goes up, my king comes up. His king goes up, my king comes up. And we just keep doing this. It's like a little dance. And, you know, you try to get to where you can do stuff like this, pushing to get it out of the way. I do that. Now he's got to worry about a promotion. And all I have to do is get in to protect. And honestly, I think I goofed up. I goofed up there. Because all honesty, what I should have done at this point, and this was a blunder on my part, what I should have done at this point was I should have pushed pawn. Because if I'd have done this right here, there would have been no way he could have stopped me. But that was my blunder. I mean, I really did blunder that, because what would have happened was, you know, he would have took, which wouldn't have been great for him, but he would have had to take, and then king would have had to move, and I'd have got a queen right there. But I wasn't paying attention. Like I said, it was a blitz game. But his king comes down. But you'll see here, I work my way in, and he has a blunder too. You know, he really does. He has a blunder himself, and right here is where his blunder comes in. You know, so I'm trying to. And he's going after 3-move repetition. I wasn't going to go after 3-move repetition. And the key was to get that bishop to another diagonal. And what really surprised me was I was trying to work my way in, and he moves it out. Now that was his blunder right there. That bishop should have never have went there. But he didn't really have no squares. You know, that knight would have took him off that file, off that diagonal anyway. Because, you know, he can't move his bishop here. He can't move it here. He can't move it here. So he has to do something with it. So, you know, so he did. He moved it out. Then my knight comes in to block. Won't let his bishop back in. He comes down. Check. King moves. Check. And king couldn't take the pawn because the knight was guarding it. Check. And king comes up. And then I check him one more time. And then I land the mate on him. But as you can see, there was mistakes made. But and I made mistakes, and he made a big blunder, and I made a blunder. But the thing about it is, what I'm saying is if you play sometimes to try to get a person to mess up, and that's what I do. I mean, sometimes I do that. I play a weird move, and it looks weird, but it's to get someone just to make a simple mistake so that you can win. I mean, that's all it is. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll try to put another one up soon, and I'll try to put some games up. If anybody has any suggestions on games they would like to see, I will try to put those up. And I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Have a good day.